Hello and welcome to the Ice Guys. This is the show that takes you into the world of the National Hockey League. Every game, every day, from a betting perspective. With pro sports handicappers, Ian Cameron, Alex B. Smith, and various guests from the world of hockey and sports betting. And now, here's your host, Ian Cameron.
Welcome to the Ice Guys, Tuesday, March 18th. Ian Cameron and Alex B. Smith with you, ready to break down the Tuesday NHL slate. And, of course, as usual, a ton of games on this Tuesday. We've got 9 on tap coming up tonight. Before we get into Tuesday night's action, though, we'll look back on the slim Monday night NHL card that we saw. And, as Dave Malinsky would say, one of the greats in this industry, wonderful man, tremendously knowledgeable, insightful, one of the most eloquent speakers of any bettor or handicapper I've known in my lifetime. One of the things he would say is when you start to have a bad read on a team or you start to see good spots for a team and they don't come through for you, then it becomes time to, as Dave would say, put that team in the drawer. And I think that might be the time to do that now for the Columbus Blue Jackets at this point in time. That's a disappointing loss for them, a 2-1 loss to the New Jersey Devils. Credit to Jake Allen, though, 45 saves in the victory for the New Jersey Devils. I'm telling you right now, in just the short form, the recent form, he's been a little bit better than Jacob Markstrom. I think that's fair to say at the moment right now. He is certainly seeing pretty good performance lately in net for the New Jersey Devils, and he was magnificent last night. Other than a Matthew Olivier goal to make it 2-1, he had a outstanding performance for the Devils last night. And like I said, a very solid effort from New Jersey. 2-1, they get the job done over the Columbus Blue Jackets there last night in that one. Tampa Bay, I wish they had scored 4, but they didn't. And they only get 2 last night against the Philadelphia Flyers. But the Flyers shut out in back-to-back games. Probably should have taken the Flyers team total under, but nevertheless, that's back-to-back games that they've been shut out, and a 2-0 win for Tampa as they get some redemption against the Flyers, who beat them in Philadelphia last week, 4-3 in a shootout. Tampa gets them back there. This was frustrating, man. Buffalo, I had the first period over, so I'm happy about that. But boy, oh boy, that game's 2-2 last night, Sabres-Bruins, with 6 minutes to go in the second, and no regulation goals after that. It goes 2-2 to overtime, scoreless in the third, and Buffalo gets the overtime win, 3-2 over the Boston Bruins last night. Bruins now starting to realize, reality sinking in, that playing like the roster that's depleted coming out of the trade deadline now, unlike the first few games coming out of the deadline there. So to lose that full game over, which was the show best bet, was tough, very tough. But Buffalo gets the win there, 3-2 in that one. Credit to the Toronto Maple Leafs. That was finally a 60-minute effort. That was finally a strong 60-minute performance from the Leafs last night. Could tell right away they were ready to go from the opening faceoff. And if not for Dustin Wolf in the first period, it's probably 4-1 Toronto. He was spectacular in the opening period. He made like 3 or 4 just unbelievable, incredible saves. Or else Toronto could add, like I said, 4 in the first period alone. Well, they got 4 in the second period as the dam finally burst in the second period, and the Leafs exploded for 4 goals. Power play got going, and it was a 5-1 Leafs lead, and they coasted home to a 6-2 victory. I say this now about Calgary. This is a team that is not making the playoffs if they play like they did last night. You are hanging your young goalie out to dry. In a lot of games this year, he's been the reason you're winning these games. You simply have to play better in front of him. You can't just solely say, hey, we got Dustin Wolf back there. He'll save our ass, and we can just half-ass it. And that's too much of that is starting to happen for Calgary right now. And this is a very tough road trip they've got right now. Toronto last night, tough game to start. Tough back-to-back here against an equally desperate New York Rangers team. And, of course, we'll talk about that in just a moment. And then you continue on, and you've got more difficult assignments here on this East Coast road trip for the Calgary Flames. You play New Jersey, who have been playing very well for the most part lately. They've adjusted. They've been able to survive and find ways to win games without Dougie Hamilton and Jack Hughes. Then you play the Islanders after that, who aren't fully out of it. So this is not an easy road trip for Calgary, and that is setting a horrific tone for this road trip last night. It was an awful performance. Awful. from the Calgary Flames in that game against Toronto. And again, I don't even fault Dustin Wolf. Yeah, it's going to show 5 goals, but he's only a human being. He's going to, when you get a deluge like that, eventually, the dam is going to burst there, and that's exactly what happened. Like I said, it could have been 5-1 after the first period, never mind the second period, if not for Dustin Wolf last night. And how good is it for the Leaf fans to see 2 goals from Austin Matthews? Obviously, that's been a big talking point. Not where's the goal production gone this season for the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs, but, to be able to get him to get 2 goals last night, it'll be very interesting to see how that one goes. 6-2 Leafs. 3-1 Minnesota. They get the job done against LA. That was a solid win. And the road woes continue for the Kings, and the offensive issues continue for the Los Angeles Kings. And especially on the road. At home they do score a little bit more, but on the road it's been tough sledding. They get a power play goal from Kempe and nothing after that. And Minnesota gets a 3-1 win there over the Los Angeles Kings. Again, a very, very solid performance in net last night from Kemper, but it goes to waste, unfortunately. And Gustafsson solid, but again, LA's offensive issues continuing to really hurt them, especially away from home. Alex, your thoughts on what we saw on Monday night?
Yeah, it was a night of goaltending for sure. And it was unfortunate because we liked some overs. So looking at, like I said, New Jersey and Columbus with Jake Allen, like I said, another great start by him. And like I said, the air is definitely out of the balloon with the Blue Jackets at this point. This is a team that was playing, way above expectation for a very long time. And we thought that they were just, could continue to ride this wave. But it seems like, yeah, they've run out of steam now. And like I said, at this point, yeah, you either fade them or stay away from them. And it's unfortunate. It would have been a great story to have seen this team get into the playoffs, and I believe they would have been a club to have made some damage and some noise in the best of 7 series. But at this point, the air has run out. And the same thing with Calgary as well. And you said it perfectly. That wasn't Dustin Wolf's fault that this game was a 6-2 final by any means. It was the defense in front of him. If that had been Vladar, if that had been any other goalie, yeah, we're talking about 8, 9, maybe 10 goals potentially. And you can't have an effort like that if you're Calgary and you're trying to stay afloat in this wild card race. But the thing for the future for Calgary is that now you have a quality goaltender. You now have to pick and build an identity. Obviously, you have to improve your blue line, but either you become a defensive-heavy team with Wolf as your number 1 goalie, or you just get better defenders around him and get a bunch of offense, and then you're comfortable enough to know, hey, we can score goals, and we have a solid enough defense and a goaltender who can steal you games moving forward. So that's the one plus that they have. But like you said, everything else is kind of falling apart for those 2 teams. And then when you look at the shot charts in that as well, Toronto, very efficient with their shooting. All 5 of their goals, the shots are coming from right in between the circles. There's about 8 dots, 9 dots I'm seeing that are right in front of the crease. So they were swarming him, in front. It wasn't just that he's getting peppered with shots from range. Where if you look at Calgary's shot chart, it looks like what we always say, Stevie Wonder throwing darts, just shots coming from everywhere, all over the ice. That's a big difference as well. When you have a team like Toronto, who not only they're getting goals in bunches, but they're getting quality, high danger chances. That's a good sign for them moving forward as well.
No doubt. That's a great sign, and they needed a pick-me-up. They needed a good performance, but it's not going to get easier. Colorado coming to town, although Leafs could have beaten Colorado, the Avalanche in Denver just a few weeks ago. They had a 3rd-period lead in that game, couldn't hold it. They'll get a chance of redemption. There's only 2 games tomorrow night, as Bailey notes in the chat, and it's the good and the bad of the TNT doubleheader. Leafs, Avs, great game, phenomenal. Wild Kraken, not so much. Not so much. I mean, that could be the game that puts people to sleep in the late night hours, Minnesota and Seattle. But you do have Colorado, Toronto to get things going with TNT tomorrow night. And hopefully it's as good as the game they played in Denver just a few weeks ago. All right, let's get into Tuesday. And we will begin with what a game to start here. Huge playoff implications. The red-hot Ottawa Senators taking on the, pretty red-hot themselves. Not quite as much as Ottawa. Played pretty damn good hockey coming out of the 4 Nations break as well. Montreal, Ottawa minus 140 road favorites, 5.5 the total in this game. I remember succinctly the previous most recent meeting between these 2 teams because it was a game right after 4 Nations. The Senators were still without Brady Tkachuk, Shane Pinto, and I don't think Jake Sanderson played in that game either for the Ottawa Senators. They were banged up. They were injury-riddled. Montreal was coming off the Four Nations break and struggling going into the break. And I said, they get Ottawa out of the break, a team they need to catch, flip the reset button, watch Montreal probably play a good game. And they did that night against Ottawa. They took it to the Senators and got the win. But this time around, Montreal's got to face just about a fully healthy Ottawa team, and an Ottawa team that is just playing on all cylinders right now for sure, playing excellent hockey. Linus Ullmark, tremendous in net for them, of course, all season, but especially of late. We'll see if that can continue here tonight. Sam Montembeault will get the start here for the Montreal Canadiens in this game. Ottawa rolling, Montreal playing well. I don't really want to back aside here in this game. Now, I thought it was a great spot for Montreal the last meeting. Like I said, I honestly don't think it could have set up any better because Ottawa was injury-riddled, shorthanded. Montreal needed to get things going out of the break, and they used that break to refuel, and they've been great coming out of the break. 10 games out of the break, 7-1-2 for Montreal, 7-2-1 for the Ottawa Senators since the break. So, like I said, these are two teams that are humming right now, playing with confidence. It's a huge game for both teams. It's probably bigger for Montreal just because they're on the outside looking in, or they're the team that's just knocking on the door right now of the Eastern Conference 2 wildcard spots. You look at entering play tonight, Montreal 71 points, 1 point behind the Rangers for the second spot, and 6 points behind Ottawa, who currently hold the first wildcard spot in the East. So this will be interesting. Ottawa dominated Montreal, as John points out, before that win for Montreal. And credit to Montreal. Like I said, I thought it was a great spot, but I want to see Montreal beat this Ottawa team now with Ottawa at full strength. And we'll see if they're able to do that. I like the draw here. I think the draw is worth a shot in this game. Wouldn't shock me if we need overtime. For Montreal, if they want to catch Ottawa, it's probably good for them to win in regulation, better for them to win in regulation. But I think when you look at it first and foremost, get the points in the bank. I think we're starting to see that with a lot of teams. Conservative play kind of takes over late in the third if the game is tied. So the draw to me is in play here in this one. As far as the total goes, it's 5.5, but it's not a strong opinion for me either way with the total. I will note it was a huge under night last night. And in a lot of the games where we saw, teams needing points, other than the Calgary game, but that, again, was just a horrific game from Calgary, so it kind of got away. But other than that, we did see a lot of unders. And you're right, tight checking and playoff hockey is starting finally to take hold here in the last few nights in particular. Alex, what do you think here, Ottawa, Montreal?
Yeah, I love the draw here as well. And this is, like I said, some spots where I'll start taking some smaller, and these won't even be quarter unit plays. These will be smaller than that. Just shots on maybe those correct score prices. 2-2, I'm seeing 11-1. 3-3, I'm seeing plus 1,300. So I'll take a couple shots there. Like I said, and lean more toward the under, obviously. So taking a 2-2 score rather than, say, 4-4 on a draw for those correct score prices. But I'll have that as well as the draw. Plus 330. Best price I'm seeing at FanDuel, plus 325. I'm seeing it Bet Online, plus 310 at MGM. So please make sure to shop around with those.
No doubt. Yeah, it had been all Ottawa until the last two meetings where Montreal has beaten them twice this year. Early in October, it was a 4-1 Montreal win. And then, of course, the game after the Four Nations break in Ottawa where Montreal won 5-2. There are some props I like in this game. Patrick Laine and Claude Giroux for their respective teams. Multi-game goal-scoring streaks for both. Laine upwards of plus 270, plus 375 for Claude Giroux to score. Again, they've scored in back-to-back games, both of them. I think David Perron is worth a look here as well. He's scored in multiple games of late, 4 of the last 10. Worth a look here as well. And I want to point out a matchup that could be exploitable here for the Ottawa Senators. Jake Sanderson. He scored in Ottawa's last game against the Toronto Maple Leafs, 4-2. Montreal in the league is 29th in the NHL, Montreal. Goals allowed to defensemen. Very good stat. Montreal, 29th in the NHL, goals allowed to defensemen. And Jake Sanderson is doing a great job finding the back of the net this season for the Ottawa Senators. So I think a shot with Jake Sanderson tonight in this game makes some sense as well. Yeah, Pinto is a bet almost every game for me right now, Robert. So you won't see me objecting here to Shane Parlay Pinto on the Ottawa side of it, maybe to also have some offensive success here tonight in this game. But, solid prop game, in my opinion, here in this one. No doubt about it as far as the goal prop market is concerned. All right, next up, as we continue along here on this Tuesday card, we've got, let me just there we go, Detroit and Washington. We've got Washington minus 160, home favorites. Now, this price has dropped a little bit. We're seeing it opened as high as minus 200 here with the Capitals as home favorites, down to about minus 160 in most spots currently. And the total here sitting at, looks like, 6.5, depending on where you shop. So, again, shop around. If you like under, get that 6.5. No reason not to. And if you like the over, get a 6. There's no reason you shouldn't be able to get, better prices here. With whatever side you like here in this Red Wings and Capitals game. So I remember these teams played just recently in Washington, and Detroit jumped on Washington 2-0, and then they actually still led the game going into the third period, and then it was just a nightmare third period where they gave up 2 shorthanded goals, and it just completely crumbled for the Detroit Red Wings in that game. But they did play well early. Mrazek is going to get another start here for Detroit. Todd McClellan's using his noodle finally and saying, you know what, Peter Mrazek shut out Vegas in his last start. Maybe we should be giving him another opportunity here and riding with him because, look, but he can't be any worse than Lyon and Talbot. Talbot, they've been certainly inconsistent throughout the course of the year. I think when you look at it, though, it's good that they're going back to Mrazek. He's getting the confidence going. He had a really solid performance in the win against Vegas, albeit it was a schedule loss for Vegas because it was a brutal spot, but you got to give the Red Wings credit there for that performance. Logan Thompson in net here for the Washington Capitals. Tricky spot for Washington. They are coming off the Cali road trip, and we'll see how they handle it. The 3 games out there against Anaheim, LA, and Vegas. They beat Anaheim and San Jose with the loss against LA nestled in there. They did win the 2 games started by Logan Thompson, who is now on a 4-start win streak for them going into this game. Beat Detroit 5-2, was in net that night against the Red Wings as part of this 4-game win streak for him in this one. Detroit's got the I don't like betting against and laying prices against teams that need the points, but I don't know if I'm as in a hurry to take Detroit this time around as I did the last time. It's a matchup that does concern me for them against Washington. I think if you're going to take a shot with Detroit, it's kind of cooled off lately, but I know Jonathan mentioned this, the streak of games where Logan Thompson had given up 3 goals or more, not playing nearly as good. It's kind of cooled off a little bit in that regard, because if you look at Logan Thompson's last 4 starts, he's given up 4 in a couple of them, but he's given up 2 and 1 in the other 2. That being said, if I were to even approach betting Detroit in this game, I would prefer the team total over 2.5, because still trusting the Red Wings to win the game can be a little bit dicey. I am going to take a shot with Detroit to get a goal in the opening period of this game as well, laying a little bit more of a price with that, but that's exactly what they did the last time in Washington, and I think that could be the period where Washington's their most vulnerable with them returning from California and that 3-game road trip. And as far as the full game total, I am going to go over by Fecta here, but more so on the first period over. I think first period over can get there. Detroit, Washington, that first period over was pretty easy, the last time these 2 teams played, so I could see that coming through here again. And of course, also the gift might also be worth a look here with Detroit and Washington, because Detroit got those 2 quick goals very early in the opening period. So it's an over by Fecta for me here, primarily with a little bit more of a stronger stance on the first period, over 1.5. Alex, what do you think here, Detroit, Washington?
Yeah, so I'm going with the first period over 1.5. You can lay minus 125 right now at Caesars, or you can wait a little bit in game. But I also like first period, both teams to score. I grabbed that plus 158 is where you can get that at FanDuel. And I'm going to take a shot here with just looking at those 2 in particular. As far as full game over, I'm a little dicier on. Like I said, I think this could be one where it's a little tighter. So I'm seeing draw plus 340. I will grab some of that. It's not my favorite draw, but this is, like I said, 2 teams needing points. So I will have a little bit of that in pocket. But mainly on that first period over, playing some of that at -125 and looking to add on more in game, along with that both teams to score +158 at FanDuel.
Of course, I'm going to be betting Ovechkin last goal. We've talked about this as he's 8 goals away now from the record. And like I said, I think it's worth a shot. Protas, yes, that's definitely a good goal prop. And I'm going back to an old friend of mine on Detroit, because don't look now, starting to percolate again goal scoring wise. Marco Kasper, the friendly betting ghost, who has goals in 2 of the last 3 games here for the Detroit Red Wings. So going back to an old friend of mine there, Marco Kasper. Protas, I don't mind as well. Worth a look as far as a goal scorer prop in this game for the Washington Capitals. What a season he's had, obviously, for them. We'll see if that continues along here for Alexei Protas. And again, with Ovechkin, he's only obviously just to score a goal plus 120 in that range, but you get the plus 750 for him to find the back of the net and be the last goal scorer. I definitely think that is worth a look every game until he nabs that record, because in positions where or you know what, another thing you can do is if they offer it or find a way to get on a live anytime goal scorer prop for Ovi, when you see that Washington has the lead in the third period, that is the time to look for any sort of Ovechkin goal props, because certainly could be a situation where he's able to find the back of the net, no doubt, because they're going to look for him every time the net is empty to try to get him closer to breaking Wayne Gretzky's all-time goal-scoring record. All right, the New York Islanders and Pittsburgh Penguins. Islanders -115 road favorites. The total 6 here, shaded to the under in this game. The Islanders, what a stirring comeback for them. Got to give them a little applause here and a little recognition for the win against Florida. I mean, 4-2 victory over the Panthers. Now, they feasted on a Florida team that was in a pretty tough spot. It was back-to-back on the road for them after being in Montreal the night before. But you still have to give them credit for that, a 4-2 win against the Stanley Cup champions. Meanwhile, this Pittsburgh Penguins team, my goodness, 4-game win streak against Minnesota, Vegas, St. Louis, and New Jersey. They've scored a grand total of 18 goals in those 4 games combined. So their offense has really started to get it rolling here for the Pittsburgh Penguins of late. We'll see if that continues here in this matchup tonight against the Islanders. 7-2-1 over for the series history, by the way, between these two teams. I'm going to rock with it. No first period here, just full game over. 7-2-1 over. For some reason, these two teams get together. There's goals. Pittsburgh's offense is rolling. I think from a goaltending standpoint, I know it's going to be obviously Tristan Jarry. He did give up 3 against New Jersey the other night, even though he's played well since his second opportunity here. Second life here with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Sorokin projected but not confirmed for the New York Islanders, and I'm on the draw here. Definitely feels like a kind of a draw spot to me. We've been staying away from these Thailanders lately as far as betting their games to go to overtime, betting the draw, but I'm going back to it here tonight. I lean Penguins too, but you know me with Pittsburgh. I don't like this team still, even though they've won 4 in a row. And I know the moment I say, yeah, I'm going to bet Pittsburgh, it'll be 4-3 Islanders tonight. You just watch. So I'm not doing that. I could only take Pittsburgh right now. They're playing well. They're playing with some confidence. They're scoring goals. They're playing with some pizzazz, some effort. And, of course, Jarry is playing very well at the moment, getting this, second opportunity here with the Penguins this year after a brutal start to the year. Like I say, it's Penguins or pass. I'm not going to be that person that's, a team that I've never been enamored with all year, but they've won 4 in a row. Yeah, now I'm going to bet them, and I don't like doing that because I think, watch, Islanders win the moment I do that. So just the draw and just over 5.5 for me here. Alex, what do you think? Isles, Pens?
Yeah, I'm with you on that over 5.5, but I'm a little dicey with the draw here. This is a series that had a lot of overtime history for a while, and then it was got kind of choppy. I've been burned the last couple of years, being off and on with the draw. So this is one that I probably will stay off of with as far as the tie goes, but definitely liking that over 5.5, and I'm not afraid to lay that 125 pregame with that either. Obviously, of course, I'll look to add a little bit more on. If this maybe goes 5 minutes without a goal, we get into that plus 110, plus 115 range. But yeah, like I said, definitely look like in this over 5.5.
All right, there you go. Good stuff is there. As far as props for this game, Islanders and Penguins, if you look at the here's one that I'll throw out there. Obviously, Crosby and Raquel have been very good for Pittsburgh, especially during this win streak and rust, and they've got that line. I know we've seen Phil Tomasino kind of step up, at times and give this team a little punch offensively, no doubt. How about, I don't know if this is going to continue, but he's only playing on the third line, but Connor Dewar, who they got from the Toronto Maple Leafs at the deadline, he's playing with Blake Lizotte and Noel Acciari. He's actually scored in back-to-back games for the Pittsburgh Penguins, Connor Dewar on the third line. Now, he's not much of an offensive player. He never really has been a big offensive producer going back to Minnesota, and he really wasn't that way with Toronto either. But he has scored in back-to-back games for the Pittsburgh Penguins on that third line. So maybe a little small shot at Connor Dewar. It's as high as plus 800, in some spots. So why not, put a couple of bucks there on that, considering that he has scored for the Penguins here in back-to-back games for them. So those are some props that kind of stand out to me. I think on the Islanders side of the equation, you look at the way their lineups shape out here tonight for this game. There's value with Simon Holmstrom because he's playing with Horvat and Palmieri right now. A good point that Jonathan makes. Lee usually has a good history against Pittsburgh. And the other one I'd go back to the well with is Anthony Duclair, second line for the New York Islanders. So Anthony Duclair supposed to be a guy that's very capable offensively and streaky, but I could see him finding the back of the net for them here tonight in this game. So those are some of the props I would look at there with the Islanders and Penguins as far as goal prop is concerned. All right, next up, we've got that's probably true, Jonathan. If he's right from the area, you're right. We give him a break. All right, Calgary Flames and New York Islanders. New York Rangers rather. We've got the Rangers minus 260 home favorites. The total here sitting at 5.5, shaded to the over. Now this is a game that I could definitely see staying under the total. We've talked about this with the New York Rangers. They are really playing a tighter defensive style the last few games, clearly. Trying to play they're not opening up the game like they did for the majority of the season. And they're trying to, I think they're trying to protect their very shaky blue line, not take as many chances to try to make sure this blue line doesn't give up as many odd man rushes or maybe is prone to as many breakdowns in their own defensive zone. And as a result, 4 straight unders here for the New York Rangers. And to be honest, the style of play is kind of working because, they gave up 3 to Edmonton, but 2 of the goals were in the third. They had only given up 1 goal going into the third period of that game. They shut out Columbus. They give up just 2 goals to Minnesota. And even in a loss to Winnipeg, they only give up 2 goals there. So this New York Rangers team and their defensive, their transition and changing their spots, if you will, a little bit to taking care of their house, if you will, taking care of their own end. It's given them a chance to win these games. They're playing tight, close games. That being said, they're still only 2-2 in those 4 games. Calgary comes in losing 3 in a row here. We talked about how awful that game was last night because they basically had a miserable defensive game. They were hemmed in their own zone. It was just too easy for the Leafs to move the puck around, and they really broke down that Calgary D last night. They hung Dustin Wolf out to dry. It's their 3rd straight loss. This is kind of like Columbus West right now. The Calgary Flames kind of falling apart, kind of going in the opposite direction. I'm very fascinated to see what Ryan Huska does goaltending-wise because Dustin Wolf got taken out after the second period. They put Dan Vladar in to finish that game in the third. Was this going to be a Dan Vladar start all the way? I probably was initially going to be Dan Vladar's net tonight against the New York Rangers on the back-to-back, but it hasn't been confirmed yet. Does he maybe run back Wolf again, or does he keep it as was originally planned that this was going to be the start here for Dan Vladar tonight? That's going to be interesting to see what he decides to go with. I don't hate the taking a shot with Calgary. I can't do it, though, after what I saw last night. In a back-to-back spot, it's tricky. I don't like the way the team is trending right now. I could maybe talk myself into maybe the draw because the Rangers don't win games easily or comfortably, and I could see this being a close game. Rangers have played a lot of close games lately, no doubt. In this new defensive style that they've kind of adapted here kind of lends itself to close hockey with the threat of overtime. So the draw, a small draw perhaps I'll take a shot with, but nothing more other than that. Like I said, I think this is probably an under game. I mean, Calgary is going to have to win lower scoring games on the road right now. They're going to have to play a lot better in their own end than they did last night against Toronto. I think they know that. And the Rangers are playing a much tighter style of play right now. So this probably does feel like a lower scoring game, especially with both teams needing points in a big way in their respective wild card races. Alex, what do you think here? Calgary Flames, New York Rangers.
Yeah, this is the one where I have to wait for the goaltending, because if it is Dustin Wolf, then yeah, under and draw both will be on my card.
Even Vladar's been good lately. I still have that visions of that Florida game in my mind from him.
He has, but at the same time, I worry about if it's a defensive effort like last night with Vladar in that. New York, they can play as tight defensively as they want. They still might be able to find 4 or 5 goals of their own, and this thing creeps over. So, it'll be a pass if it's Vladar, and this will be a game with the under and the draw if it is Wolf confirmed.
Yeah, that's not a bad approach. Just wait for the guy. I'm kind of there too. I haven't locked in the draw or anything. The under makes sense. I would probably go that way regardless of who's in net for Calgary because of the way I think this game will be played, pretty tight. But like I said, I'm waiting to see what the lineups are for these respective teams. There's not much I'm looking at as far as goal props here tonight necessarily, but I will say this about Calgary. Morgan Frost should have scored last night, but obviously it was a great challenge by Toronto, and it was offside. It was the right call there, but so maybe he'd be the one person for Calgary I'd be interested in as far as a goal prop. For me, the only one I'd be interested in is Will Cooley, who will happen to get the only goal for the New York Rangers against Edmonton. And we've talked about, how well, he's been playing obviously for this New York Rangers team of late. So very interesting to see how this one goes. I understand people in the chat, including John Massey, who's as unbiased a Rangers fan as it gets, taking the big number with Calgary. I get it. New York Rangers minus 260 is, you can't touch that. You absolutely cannot. You cannot endorse that in any way, shape, or form. But my issue is Calgary, trusting them to get it done on a back-to-back with the way they're trending right now. Oh, I thought Alex was going to jump in and say something. No problem. On we go. Nothing more to add. All right, next up, we've got Anaheim and Dallas. We've got Dallas minus 350, home favorites, I should say, in this game against Anaheim. The 6th the total in this game. I mean, this has got to be a kill spot for Dallas. I mean, you've got to come in here and take care of business. Anaheim's fallen on hard times. That was pretty ugly from Anaheim against St. Louis the other night. But Dallas is coming back off, a little series of pretty big games and a huge one on the road against Colorado on Sunday, a game where they were clearly the second best team most of that game, but a little bit of a 30-second lapse from Colorado allowed Dallas to pounce and get that game from 3-1 to 3-3. Credit to them for battling back. And that's Dallas's offense this year. They're never out of a game. They can strike quickly, even when they don't have their A game. And they showed that against Colorado. So that was good for them to be able to rescue a point and get that game to overtime. But Colorado ends up winning it with the Cale Makar goal in overtime. Very great play, a great play by him for that 4-3 win. Dallas has owned Anaheim. That being said, this is our system that we've mentioned on this show with the minus 300 or bigger favorite, where oftentimes the big underdog strikes early in the game. And even our good buddies there, the Robinsons, they'll often tell you, and they have often said, as Dallas Stars fans that they are, that they give up a goal to these lesser teams at home often. We have seen that quite a bit. So I'm going to take Anaheim to score in the first period. That's the only Anaheim bet I'm taking. Just taking them to score in the first period. Because the one thing I expect from Anaheim is, look, you're not making the playoffs. You could talk yourself into the fact that we're still mathematically alive. You're not making it. You got too many teams to pass, to leapfrog, and you're just not good enough to string a long win streak together at any point. But you're coming off a 7-2 loss, a blowout defeat to St. Louis. You got to show a little pride, and I think Anaheim will tonight, at least early in the game. So I'm going to take the Anaheim goal in the first period, which you can get at a reasonable price. Definitely a first period over and maybe even a first period both teams to score. But I've already got Anaheim to score in the first, so I'm just going to go over 1.5 in the first period, rather than adding on to both teams to score as well. So over 1.5 first period. Anaheim to score a goal in the first period. What's that? That Dallas. You know what I'm going to do? Live team total over on Dallas. I don't want to lay minus 150, minus 160 on it pregame. We're going to, and again, just like with money line prices, just like with full game totals, just first period totals, anything, you can wait for team totals. 2-3 minutes into the game pass by, and you'll be able to get a better price on that Dallas team total over 3.5. That's what I'm going to do. I ain't laying minus 150, minus 160 pregame on it. I'm going to wait, see if I can get that closer to even money on Stars team total over 3.5. Because at the end of the day, I think this is a spot for them, offensively back home after 3 losses in 4 games on that road trip, to come back and put 4 on the board against a Ducks team that has given up 7 in 2 of their last 4 games. That's the way I'm looking at it here. And if you actually look at series history as well, between these two teams, Dallas been pretty good more often than not, scoring 4 against this squad. So, like I said, over 3.5. Dallas team total live, though. Wait for a better price is what I am going to do with that. Alex, what do you think here? Anaheim, Dallas.
Just another game where I'm going to go first period heavy. I like first period over, but I'm going to wait for that rather than leave 145 or 148. Try and grab that at a better price. So $1.15 or better in game. But I will go with Anaheim to score a goal in the first period, lay the $1.10 with that, and I'll go both teams to score pregame in the first period. So have those 2 pregame, first period, both teams to score, and Anaheim to score in the first, along with the first period over live.
Yeah, Lukas Dostal and Jake Ottinger, not really a big surprise, but both of those guys will be the starting goaltenders here for these 2 teams. It's been a rough go for Dostal. I think maybe fatigue setting in, long season. I think this is definitely going to be an all-time high as far as games played. He played 44 games last year. He's already at 43 this year, and he's gonna smash that 44 games mark. So you wonder about his fatigue level. That's basically where we're at now. Again, they haven't helped him out in some of these games, but it's not been common for him to give up 5 goals, 6 goals routinely, and we're starting to see some of those creep into his game, and like giving up 5 against Detroit on February 23rd, 6 goals allowed to Washington, albeit it's Washington, a really good team, but 5 goals on just 14 shots against St. Louis the other night. So he's a really good young goalie. We like him a lot. Alex and I have said that, but he's just being run into the ground right now. And any young goalie, he is going to smash, Alex, his all-time high as far as games started in an NHL season. 44 last year. He's at 43 already this year. So you're right. He's just a little run down right now. That's, to me, what it is. And, of course, they're not helping him.
He's already broken the amount of minutes played. He went over to 23.55. So, and I was going to say, that's something to keep an eye on, too, when looking at goalies. We talk about that, a lot over the last couple of years. But how many minutes has the goalie played? How many games has the goalie started? Are they reaching, their career high, or are they, at a point where they're going to surpass or greatly surpass or eclipse their career high in those totals? And then if you're starting to see them kind of maybe, showing some signs of fatigue, you can, factor that into the equation of your handicap.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think for Dallas, I like what I'm already seeing from the line that was put together by Peter DeBoer, obviously, after the acquisition of Mikko Rantanen. I'm already seeing the chemistry develop with Jason Robertson, Roope Hintz, and Mikko Rantanen. They scored, of course, the first period goal against Colorado on Saturday. I'd be interested in any of those guys as far as props go in this game. I'll throw one out there for Anaheim. We know in college, streaky scorer, we know just a bona fide goal scorer, potentially, he can be at this level. And a great shot, great release, got the potential, obviously, to find the back of the net here. But Cutter Gauthier is someone to keep an eye on for Anaheim. Starting to heat up just a little bit. He's got 5 points in the last 5 games for this Anaheim Ducks team, and he scored a goal against St. Louis. So starting to heat up a little bit for this Anaheim Ducks team. And I believe he scored the last time they played Dallas, if I'm not mistaken, Cutter Gauthier. Back either it was in the February. Yes, it was. It was in the February game against Dallas. Anaheim won that game 2-1, and Cutter Gauthier scored in that game. So I think he is worth a look there, and you can get upwards of plus 500 or so with Cutter Gauthier here in that game. Yeah, we'll have to see about Nestorenko, but I did notice that Nestorenko, someone for the Anaheim Ducks who's going to probably get more of a look, and he's on that line with Gauthier, and you're getting a good price there with him. He scored in that St. Louis game. He's had a shot on goal in 5 straight games, so you like to see that. That's important. When you're on the third line, you're not going to get the ice time. You want to see that they're at least getting pucks on net, and he's been able to do that. So Nestorenko, if you want to take a longer shot, nothing wrong with that. All right, next up as we continue along here, we've got St. Louis, Nashville. St. Louis minus 115 road favorites, 5.5 being the total here in this game. Now, certainly this is a St. Louis team that I'm not betting against. It's a question of, do I want to bet on them? I'm not betting Nashville. That much I know in this spot. St. Louis playing, obviously, playing some really good hockey for the most part, other than a game or two here or there. But no, they've been solid. They've gotten themselves right back into the mix. 73 points. They are tied with the Vancouver Canucks right now for that second and final Western Conference wildcard spot. We'll see how they fare here tonight against the Nashville Predators. Now, Nashville's done this little post-Four Nations break routine of, while we're out of it, we're playing loose, we're playing relaxed. And, they were winning games there. 4 straight wins against Boston, Seattle, Chicago, and San Jose. But you got to look at that quality of competition, don't you? Boston 6-3 post deadline, 5-3 Seattle, 3-2 Chicago, 3-2 San Jose. And then they lost the last 2 games of that road trip in Anaheim and LA, and the offense, dried up just a little bit in that game. So we'll see if Nashville can get it rolling again here at the offensive end of the ice. I think the most staggering statistic going into this game is that 12 of the last 13 meetings of these two teams have gone over the total. 9-1 of the last 10 have gone over. 12-1 the last 13 head-to-head meetings with the Blues and the Predators have gone over. St. Louis got them 7-4 in the previous meeting this year between these two teams. So I'm going to do a little bit of a Blues. I don't, the line looks short to me, but I couldn't care less. And I couldn't care less if it's Hofer in net. Hofer was actually not bad in his last start, played solid. And I know he's not as good as Binnington, but I think this is a cheap price on a better hockey team. So I'm going to go Blues money line with team total over split, and I'm going to go over bifecta here, but more so on the full game with this one instead of the first period, because it's the full game overs that have been extremely strong between these two teams. So over 5.5 minus 120 is probably my favorite bet in this game, even more than the 2 Blues bets. But I'm on all 4 of those. Blues money line, Blues team total over, first period over, full game over. Alex, Blues Predators.
Yeah, I bet it last night with Blues money line. I got minus 114 at FanDuel. That price is still available. But of course, that 5.5, you can get minus 118. That's something I will bet it now, and I'll also grab the first plus price that pops up in game as well if there's not a goal early. And if I'm seeing the pace, I can add on to that first period over as well. So this is a good spot where I think we can see goals tonight, and like I said, in favor of St. Louis. So should be a fun one. St. Louis in the over. Like I said, full game, pregame, and adding some first period over with a little bit extra of that 5.5 at plus money in game.
I agree fully with Braden Shen, what Jonathan's saying. He scored in back-to-back games as well for the St. Louis Blues. The captain finding his offense at the right time of season for the St. Louis. What a night for him against Anaheim the other night. Scored and got in a fight in the opening period of that game against Jacob Trouba. So big-time night for Braden Shen there, and he scored in back-to-back games. So, yeah, I like it. Definitely a good goal prop there in that one. I've already bet it myself. Won't you be my neighbor? Is he starting to heat up? Jake Neighbors. He scored in back-to-back contests for the St. Louis Blues as well. So Jake Neighbors, keep an eye on him. He hasn't had quite the, huge boom offensively that he had last year, but you're definitely seeing signs of him start to heat up. Dylan Holloway's always a threat. He scored in the blowout win against Anaheim as well. For Nashville, the O'Reilly Auto Parts, that angle, of course, former St. Louis Blues player, wanting to score against his old team. Yeah, I could definitely understand maybe looking toward his props. Luke Evangelista, Jonathan making note that he scored goals in bunches against this St. Louis Blues team. So there's someone to keep an eye on. Buchnevich starting to, heat up a little bit. Certainly more from a point standpoint with him. But certainly overall, he has fit well since he's been back in the lineup. They put Buchnevich, Thomas, and Neighbors together. And I think that's also helped get Neighbors going, because that trio played together a lot before Buchnevich got hurt. And now they're together again, Buchnevich, Robert Thomas, and Neighbors. And it's getting Neighbors going here right now for the St. Louis Blues. That's a good line right now for the St. Louis Blues, the way they've been playing. And by the way, as I mentioned, this is the front end of a back-to-back for St. Louis. They're saving Binnington for actually, no, it's not a back-to-back for St. Louis. They don't play tomorrow. They play against Vancouver Thursday against the Canucks, but they're opting to, give Ho for this start and probably play Binnington.
That's
Thursday.
a huge game, obviously, right
Against
in line with who you're catching.
Yeah.
So
they want him fresh for that big showdown against the team they're battling with. Yep, for that second wild card spot in the Western Conference. All right, we roll along here on this Tuesday. Next up, we've got Seattle and Chicago in the Windy City as the Blackhawks return home after a little bit of a time away on the road. We've got Seattle minus 150 road favorites here in this game. The total sitting at 5.5, 6 across the board here in this one. Very, very much tempted by taking a shot with Chicago here. We'll see if I do. I know one thing. I'm not laying minus 150 with Seattle anywhere right now. That much I'm firmly aware, firmly in the corner of not doing that. Spencer Knight will get the start here for Chicago. Not a surprise, obviously. He started to separate himself just a bit from Soderblom in these alternating of goaltenders that we have seen from the Chicago Blackhawks lately in games. And Spencer Knight, even in the losses that he's had, he's played so well and given this team a chance for the most part. 4 straight losses for the Blackhawks, 0-4 on that road trip against Nashville, Colorado, San Jose, and Vancouver. Now they'll look to rebound here at home where, the home record is still kind of decent, at least 13-19. I mean, they're 7-28 on the road. The road has been a real rough go of it for Chicago. But, at home, they beat LA 5-1, and they had a loss to Ottawa in overtime on this ice. And of course, they beat Utah 4-3 in overtime in a game that, means everything to Utah because they're battling for their playoff spots right now. So this is just Seattle on the road. No, not at this price. I'm very much interested in Chicago here. Maybe a small sprinkle on them at plus 130. The only concern for me is they're coming off the road, but they have been competitive and feisty, at home. They beat Utah here at home. They beat Los Angeles here at home, and they lost in overtime to a red-hot, at the time, Ottawa Senators team on home ice. And Spencer Knight is more often than not going to give this team a chance. So, like I said, this is a tough one either way. These are two teams that are where they are in the standings. So, like I said, these aren't the easiest sides to pick, but I think the value is now with Chicago. I think you got to show something here after a winless road trip back home. Spencer and net gives them a chance, I think. So we'll get in on Chicago for something small at least. Plus 130. Alex, what do you think here? Kraken, Blackhawks.
Yeah, we've seen a 3-1 run to the first period over with Spencer Knight in net for the Hawks. This team plays better overall in front of them as far as just energy level and pace goes. But Seattle, like I said, they're a good team as far as giving pace and energy right back early in contest. So I do like that first period over. You lay $1.25 at BetMGM, but I'll look to add a little bit more in game. And there's a player prop that I like here, a defenseman, somebody who's not used to scoring, but he's definitely been jumping in the rush a lot lately. I'll talk about him a little later in the bargain bin.
All right, bargain bin coming from this Seattle and Chicago game. We've talked about this guy for Seattle, and I'm telling you right now, we're betting him tonight to score. Newman! We've talked about him. Yanni Newman for the Seattle Kraken. He's been the Finnish forward's done really a solid job since he's been called up here to this Seattle team, playing with McCann and Burakovsky on the third line. But he has scored in 2 of his first 3 NHL games, and he has 5 shots on goal in those 3 games combined. So Yanni Newman for the Seattle Kraken, definitely looking at props involving goal prop tonight involving him right now. You mentioned it with Chicago. Ilya Mikheyev actually has goals in 5 of the last 10 games, 3 of the last 5. He's been picking it up lately. for the Chicago Blackhawks. You could go in that direction. If you look at their lines tonight, it's going to be alongside Bedard, Frank Nazar, and Donato. Looks like he might be back up there with Connor Bedard here tonight in this one. So, take your pick from any of those three players: Teravainen, the Trooper, Jason Dickinson, and Ilya Mikheyev, Slaggert, Nick Foligno, Colton Dach. It looks like Colton Dach back down to the third line here for the Chicago Blackhawks here tonight in this game. And then, as I mentioned, for goaltending, we know it'll be Spencer Knight. We think it's going to be Joey Decord for the Seattle Kraken, but we'll wait on it. And yeah, I'll get in on that first period over for sure. Maybe even the full game over, but more so first period over because of Chicago, playing with that, as Alex mentioned, a little more gusto in these games when Knight is in net. And the Kraken over is off a loss is, it has been strong. So we might dabble in that. Again, be careful with overs. We've seen turning of the tide here. We've seen the tide turn a little bit here as far as the games being more. But this is not one of those games that falls into that category. This is two teams that are not making the playoffs. So it goes back to who's blocking a shot, who is playing strong defense here on either of these two teams right now. That's the question when you're not going to the playoffs. And yes, I will give them some love because, it's on Vlasic. He's shown some flashes. Wyatt Kaiser has still got room for growth. Ethan Del Mastro has shown something, but you're right. Artem Levshunov here for the Chicago Blackhawks, no doubt. They're giving him opportunity. First pair defenseman. I've liked what I've seen. Skates pretty well. Playing on the power play, getting those minutes as well. So, yeah, Levshunov, no doubt about it. Someone to keep an eye on here if you want to take a shot for. Certainly, I would think, you could go goal and assist prop with him, but power play point prop. As well. Don't rule that out because he's going to get that opportunity on the man advantage for this Chicago Blackhawks team, no question. All right, next up as we roll along, we got just 2 games left. And wow, what a big bit of news here for the Edmonton Oilers for this next game against the Utah Hockey Club. Edmonton minus 150, home favorites. 6 the total, shaded to the over in this game. Both Zach Hyman and Matthias Ekholm back from injury and in the lineup tonight for the Edmonton Oilers. Massive reinforcements for them, especially Ekholm. Ekholm, one of your stabilizing forces on the blue line for the Edmonton Oilers. And it's unfortunate that they're bringing these guys back because I was kind of interested in fading Edmonton in this spot here coming off, obviously, the last 2 games of that road trip. They did the New York area road trip, Islanders, Devils, Rangers this past week. And now they're coming back home after winning the last 2 games on that trip, the Islanders and the Rangers, now back home here against the Utah Hockey Club. But a Utah team that I'm always interested in as a dog on the road where they've been better at home, and the points mean everything right now to Utah. But I got to admit, then I see that Edmonton's getting Hyman and Matthias Ekholm back, and that certainly could be, an adrenaline shot for them going into this game tonight against Utah. But it is still a tough spot for Edmonton. You are coming back home off the road trip. Karel Vejmelka in net for Utah tonight. He's been solid. Cal Pickard will get the start for the Edmonton Oilers. He's coming off a gem where he played very well. 1 goal allowed against the New York Islanders, a 2-1 win for Edmonton in overtime in that game. But he has a pattern of following up a good start with a not-so-good start. That is something we have seen from him on occasion. Look at what we've seen lately. 2 goals allowed against Colorado. Then he gives up a whopping 6 against Washington. He gives up just 1 goal against Carolina. It was a phenomenal outing. He gives up 4 goals in the first period of the next game he starts against Anaheim, and he got the hook in that game as well. He got pulled after that first period. I remember it. After looking so good on the road in Carolina, he came back home against Edmonton, and he laid an egg and did not look good. So this might be also a Utah to get on the board in the first period look for me here as well. I could definitely see Utah getting on the board. I still lean to the Hockey Club here, plus 130. Desperate for points, playing pretty decently. Edmonton in a bit of a tricky scheduling spot. Pickard's pattern of not playing well after a good game or a good start. And that's sometimes what you get with the journeyman goaltenders like he is. So I'm still very interested in Utah, but I will admit, not as much do I like them after seeing that Hyman and Ekholm are going to be back for Edmonton, because those are 2 big time returns to the lineup here for this Oilers team. Alex, what do you think here? Utah, Edmonton.
Yeah, I'm just looking at BetMGM. I'm seeing for Utah goals in the first period, you can get over 1 plus 190, over 1.5 plus 320. So I might take some small nibbles with those. But other than that, this game's kind of a pass for me because, like I said, Utah needs the points. Edmonton, can be a kind of pesky, tough team too. It just depends on what mood they're in any given night, especially at home. So this is one I'll be looking to bet maybe live. But if I have to bet anything pregame, that over 1 look and over 1.5 look, I might take some small shots with those.
Yeah, I just can't. I just remember. You know what it is? I remember this exact same scenario for Calvin Pickard. They came back home off a road trip. He played well in the Carolina game on the road. Similar score. It was 3-1 in that game for Edmonton over Carolina. Pickard was great. Comes back home. He gives up 4 in the first period against Anaheim. Kind of a similar setup here. He was great against the Islanders in his last start Friday, 2-1. Now he's back. They're back home off a road trip. He's getting the start at home. Is he going to get lit up in the first period again? I'm not saying it'll happen, but I'm drawing the parallels here, which is why I'm attracted to Utah in the first period team total, the over 1. I'm not going to go the 1.5 because over 1 by itself is a pretty good price, plus 190. But like I said, I think they could get 1, perhaps 2 in the opening period here, the Utah Hockey Club, even with Hyman and Ekholm, because sometimes too, when you're bringing in your two, even though they're 2 important pieces to this Oilers team, sometimes you're bringing in 2 key players back, especially early in the game. You're out of sync a little bit, out of sorts, because they've been playing without those guys now for a little bit. So that's another thing to keep in mind here. So, the plus 130, I bet as well, the money line, but I like the early looks, I think, with Utah even more, because I think that's where Edmonton's at their most vulnerable, potentially, here tonight. All right, as far as props go for this Utah and Edmonton game, let me just see here. There are a few that piqued my interest here. I'll throw a crazy one out there because he scored in back-to-back games for Utah, even though he's on the 4th line. Kevin Stenlund. If you buy into him scoring for the 3rd straight game, it's plus 950. Just something to think about. I mean, he scored in back-to-back games for Utah.
That's not a bad price.
Plus 950. But yeah, scored in back-to-back games here for the Utah Hockey Club, no doubt. Now, Victor Arvidsson got a big goal for them against the New York Rangers on Sunday. Can he start to find it? Because they've expected more from him. He's definitely been a disappointment, there's no doubt. Logan Cooley, he was kind of in a, I don't want to say a funk, but, his offense did taper off a little bit. He scored in Utah's last game, and you can get him close to plus 300 in this game tonight. So certainly a Logan Cooley might be worth a look here in this one. Gunther with goals in 4 of the last 10 games. Now, you're not getting the great prices with Gunther anymore, plus 220, but obviously he's a threat every night for this Utah Hockey Club. But those are some of the goal props that I'm kind of looking at here as far as this one tonight with the Utah Hockey Club and the Edmonton Oilers, including that, like I said, that long shot there, even though he's on the 4th line with Nick Bukestad and Michael Carcone. Kevin Stenlund there at plus 950 as he looks to make it 3 straight games with a goal for Utah. All right, final game of this Tuesday slate, and it's a good one too. We've got the Winnipeg Jets, leaders of the Central Division, taking on the Vancouver Canucks, who, of course, are trying to hang on to that 2nd wildcard spot in the Western Conference, tied with St. Louis entering the night for that position. Winnipeg minus 165, road favorites, 5.5 the total here in this game. I got to admit, I'm tempted by those Canuckleheads. Maybe I'm a Canucklehead for even wanting to bet Vancouver, but it's just a more important 2 points for them than it is for Winnipeg. Winnipeg's looking more and more like they're sailing on through to winning the Central. Dallas losing head-to-head against Winnipeg on Friday really put Winnipeg in a spot where can they really be caught? They'd have to face plant down the stretch at this point, Winnipeg, to not win the Central Division. But you're seeing signs of them. You saw the Seattle game the other night. They weren't ready to play off the hop because, look, they're playing Seattle. They're in a comfortable spot, Winnipeg in the division, comfortably, at least for now, in first. And Seattle jumped on them early. But Winnipeg, good enough to come back, and you give them credit, and they really stifled Seattle the last 2 periods, allowing them to come back from that 2-0 early deficit, to win that game. I think what I might do, because I just basically told you how the game flow went against Seattle, was the one mistake I made is I didn't take Seattle first period. I only went more toward team total in that game for the full game. I think this could be one where if you like Vancouver and you think they're live, and I do, I think you're going to get a great effort from them. They're off the loss to Utah on a back-to-back on Sunday. Remember, they played Saturday, and then they had to play again Sunday against Utah. And I liked Utah against Vancouver on Sunday. Good spot to bet against Vancouver. I think there's value, and it's not a bad spot to bet on Vancouver here tonight. But I might split it up if I do it. A little bit on the first period, because this could be another one of those games where they come out strong. Tockett's not going to love the effort against Utah. Have that good start. We did see Winnipeg start slow against Seattle on Sunday night against the Kraken. So I lean Vancouver, probably do a full game money line, but also make sure I split it up evenly with the first period money line as well, because like I said, I think Vancouver will have that good opening period after what happened against Utah. And like I said, we saw a slow start from Winnipeg the other night. Yes, Philip Hedl out for the Vancouver Canucks with the concussion. That's on Utah as well because of that, and he will be missed for sure. It now means your center ice position is Elias Pettersson, Pius Suter, Teddy Bluger, and Niels Amon here for the Vancouver Canucks down the middle. We'll see how they fare with that. But definitely, like I said, just from the way this goes here with Vancouver, I could see them. The one thing I've noticed with Vancouver, it was a tough spot for them on against Utah Sunday night. But, prior to that, they had been really digging in, starting to play, really hard, like a team that's, really got that focus to try to get back into the playoffs. They're going to need it here tonight, obviously, playing a great team like Winnipeg. But I wouldn't be shocked if at the end of the night, Canucks find a way to pull this one out. So we'll do a little small dabble here. Canucks here, first period, full game, money line. Alex, what do you think here? Final game of the night, Winnipeg, Vancouver.
Yeah, I like the draw here, plus 350. I think that's a great price for a game where, like I said, Winnipeg's just kind of coasting through now at this point. Haven't been playing their best hockey, but Vancouver definitely needing to claw and grab every point they can. And I'm going to go a step further. We've talked about this before on the BetCast, that overtime, game to reach overtime and overtime goal winner. Jake DeBrusk at 80-1 is a shot that I'll take. I think if they go to overtime, I think he can be the guy to step up and deliver and get that game winner. So draw plus 350, Jake DeBrusk to get the game winner in overtime at 80-1. Those are my two plays here tonight.
Kevin Lankinen confirmed in net for Vancouver. Not a shock at all with that. And we project Connor Hellebuck here for Winnipeg, especially because we saw Eric Comrie get the opportunity the other night against Seattle. So very much a good very much you would think Connor Hellebuck's going to get the start here after we saw, obviously, the performance from Eric Comrie get the opportunity the other night against Seattle. As far as props, now, this, by the way, I definitely, if it's Lankinen versus Hellebuck, lean under for sure in this game. I think this is definitely one of those, and Vancouver is not going to want to play up and down hockey right now. Now, there have been some overs historically with the Jets and the Canucks. I just feel this probably not going to be maybe one of those games necessarily that we see goals in bunches. Quinn Hughes, by the way, back-to-back games with a goal for the Vancouver Canucks. That is something worth mentioning. So he has definitely been trying to get involved more from a goal-scoring standpoint, shoot the puck a little bit more. Something to make note of. Dylan Sandberg from the blue line for Winnipeg has actually scored in back-to-back games for them. How about that? Not someone you would have pegged as a guy that would be scoring in back-to-back games, but obviously he has been able to do that here for the Winnipeg Jets. So a couple of defensemen working on trying to score for a third straight game here tonight in this Jets and Canucks game. So like I said, very much interested to see if maybe those two players are able to find the back of the net. All right, shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much. A big Tuesday card. Looking forward to it. And we're also looking forward to a week from tonight, which is, of course, also a Tuesday, and our next Patreon exclusive Ice Guys Live Betcast coming your way on Tuesday, March the 25th. Make sure you sign up at the Patreon page if you're not a member already, because the only way to watch that Betcast and join us on that Betcast next Tuesday, March 25th, is to be a Patreon member. So make sure you sign up, just $10 per month, patreon.com/Ice Guys, goalie charts, totals charts, our daily betting card, sides, totals, player props posted each and every day on the Patreon page, plus all the access to the bonus content, including the Ice Guys Patreon exclusive live betcast next Tuesday, March 25th. And we got plenty more live betcasts, many of them exclusive to Patreon in April and beyond, and also our live chat rooms that we've got going on as well for our Patreon page as well. Patreon members can interact with one another, talk hockey, exchange picks, exchange bets, you name it. Post your betting slips on the one screenshot chat room that we opened up, live wagering chat room. So the interaction is flowing on the Patreon page as well. So make sure you sign up. And again, your subscription goes a long way to supporting the show. Check it out, $10 per month, patreon.com/iceguys.
Also, check out the Ice Guys store, iceguys.myspreadshop.com. We've got new merch and new looks all in the store. We will have free standard shipping coming up next week as well. So take a look at some of the items you might like, add them in your cart, and then wait for the free standard shipping to pop up and take advantage of that deal. So that's all available right now at the Ice Guys store. That's at iceguys.myspreadshop.com.
All right, good stuff. We got Bargain Bin Special of the night and Best Bets coming up in just a moment, right after we hear from our great Ice Guys sponsors.
Support for the Ice Guys podcast is provided by Boston Hemp Incorporated, Tailgater Social, and a big thank you to all that subscribe to the Ice Guys Patreon page. Everyone loves a perfect pair. Bacon and eggs. Thunder and lightning. Mario and Luigi. A hot dog with fries. Ian and Alex B. That's right. Everyone loves a perfect pair. So why not pair up your game nights with Boston Hemp? From exotic flower to concentrates and edible products. You'd be hard-pressed to find a better pairing than Boston Hemp and hockey. Check them out today at bostonhempinc.com. That's bostonhempinc.com. Boston Hemp Incorporated, the official smoke sponsor of the Ice Guys. Void where prohibited by law. Not available outside of the United States. Must be 21 or over to obtain products. Check your local regulations to see if Boston Hemp is available in your area.
Shout out to all our great sponsors, including Boston Hemp Inc. Get 20% off all orders on the website using the promo code ICEGUYS at bostonhempinc.com. All right, Bargain Bin Special of the night. Big card as always on a Tuesday to select from. Alex, Bargain Bin Special, what do you got?
Yeah, let's head out to the United Center. We got Seattle taking on Chicago. And we're talking about it with the defensemen that have been jumping up in the rush. That's been kind of one of the big changes since Anders Sorensen took over as head coach. And one guy who I think is going to be a guy who can get on the board tonight, Ethan Del Mastro. You get him anytime goal scorer at plus 1,100 over at FanDuel. He's had a couple chances to really jump in and get some quality shots, find his way to the front of the net at times in some of these rushes. So Ethan Del Mastro plus 1,100. Anytime goal scorer for the Chicago Blackhawks tonight against Seattle. That's my bargain bin special this Tuesday night.
All right, there you go. Big price there on that one. 11-1 shot. Ethan Del Mastro for the Chicago Blackhawks for Alex B. Smith with his bargain bin special of the night. My bargain bin special, I mentioned it earlier, that Montreal, 29th in the league, giving up goals to defensemen. I'm going to take Jake Sanderson I'm going to give you two bargain bins. Jake Sanderson plus 650 for the Ottawa Senators is going to be one of my two bargain bin specials of the night. And the other one, he scored in back-to-back games. He's playing with great purpose. You see him sticking up for teammates, fighting Jacob Trouba. He's done a pretty good job against Nashville in the past. Braden Shen, plus 390 for the St. Louis Blues. So there you go. Two bargain bins. Jake Sanderson for Ottawa, plus 650. Braden Shen, captain for the St. Louis Blues, plus 390 for my two bargain bin specials of the night for this Tuesday NHL slate. Best bets, Alex, what do you got?
Like I said, I made the bet yesterday. I thought it was one of the stronger spots on the board. It's a cheap price to back a good team and a team that's trying to claw their way into the playoff picture officially. The St. Louis Blues minus $1.14, still available at FanDuel, minus 15 in other spots, taking on a lowly Trashville team. I like the Blues here to get 2 points in the victory. So St. Louis is my Tuesday best bet.
All right, there we go. St. Louis Blues at a very good price. I agree with that one. Minus 115 for Alex B. Smith here with his best bet for this Tuesday NHL card. My best bet for this Tuesday NHL card, I am going to go to. I was debating back and forth which one I was going to use here for Anaheim Dallas. I'm going to go with that full game over for Anaheim Dallas because I like the over in the first period. I like the over in the full game as well. I wouldn't be shocked if Anaheim, because they're off such a thumping against St. Louis, that they chip in a little offense too. But I don't know if they're slowing down the Dallas Stars. Dallas really, for the better part of the last week or so, they have been, or month or so, I should say, they've been a pretty strong over team of late. The last month, like I said, I think that continues tonight. So we'll go with the Ducks and the Stars over 6, minus 110. For my best bet here for this Tuesday card. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Hit the like button. We appreciate it very much, and looking forward to obviously a big-time Tuesday NHL slate. And Perlo back in the house tomorrow, joining us once again on Wednesday. A reminder, the Ice Guys is live 7 days a week, Monday to Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saturday and Sunday, noon Eastern. If you can't watch the show live, download the Ice Guys podcast in audio form on all major podcast platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and more. Download the Ice Guys podcast when you can't watch the show live. For Alex B. Smith, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Tuesday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. And we'll see you again tomorrow on Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern for another edition of the Ice Guys.